Hello and welcome back to our course on Access 2013 Advanced. This is the third section on action queries, and we're going to look at an example of an append query. But this one is going to be a little bit unusual because I'm going to show you the sort of thing that typically happens when you want to get some data into an Access database and you perhaps want to use what might loosely be called a quick and dirty way of doing it. Now, earlier on I showed you a partially completed table of state codes and the state names, and let's suppose I started typing that in and I was getting a bit bored with it, or it was taking me too long, or I was making too many typing mistakes. I might say, well, I must be able to get this table from the internet. So let's see how you'd get that sort of data into an Access database. Now, first of all, it's certainly not difficult to find this sort of reference information on the internet. You may or may not be a little bit mystified as to how to get it into an Access database, but very often it's a very straightforward thing to do. If you're familiar with using Microsoft Excel, you're probably familiar with the tools that go along with that in terms of scraping data from websites. But given that you may not be an experienced or a confident Excel user, I'm going to do this in a somewhat more primitive way. I found a site here which has exactly the information that I want. It's got the names of the states. It actually got hyperlinks here to take me through to information about each state. I don't need that information, but there'll be no problem getting rid of it. But it's got the abbreviations, it's got the state names, that's what I need. Virtually without exception, provided you're careful, it's straightforward to take this sort of information on the internet, click before the beginning of it, and then literally drag down to select from this table the information that you want. Having selected what you want, which is the codes and names of the 50 states, release the mouse button, and now I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. Now, it would be very nice if you could directly paste that into an Access table, but unfortunately with Access it doesn't quite have the powers of dealing with this kind of data that Excel has. So what I'm going to do instead is to create a new Excel spreadsheet, and I'm just going to paste this information into that spreadsheet. So here we are, just paste using Control V, and there we have the information straight from that website. Now I'm going to save this Excel spreadsheet. Of course, things may go wrong with the later stages of this process. It's a good idea to save the work in between as often as you can. So I'm going to save this in my Scratch folder with a suitable name. So that preparatory work is done. We can now go to the External Data tab in Access, click on Excel, and we bring up the Get External Data Excel Spreadsheet dialog. Let me browse to the workbook that I just saved. That's the State Abbreviations workbook. Access is happy with that. The first option, import the source data into a new table in the current database. That's what I want to do. So click on OK. We can see here the data that it's going to import. That all looks fine. First row contains column headings. No, it doesn't. I didn't import the column headings. So let's go to Next. And then I can carry on working through the import wizard in a way that I'm sure you're familiar with by now. And then when I've done that, I will click on Finish. So join me in just a moment. The table that I just created is called Imported State Codes. Let's just have a quick look at it. When I did the import using the wizard, I gave it the same field names as the names of the fields in the state table. If they had been different names, it's absolutely not a problem, because when we come to actually create the append query, we can deal with that. But obviously it helps to be able to identify what goes with what. I could just use this table and replace the state table because it's got all of the information in it that I need. But I mustn't forget that I'm demonstrating to you here an append query. So what I'm going to do is to say that I really want to append this table to the other one, but the other one's already got all of the states up to Illinois. So let me start with a select query in the usual way. So I'm going to say create query design. I'm just going to use the imported state codes table. I'm going to select the state code and I'm going to select the state name, but I'm going to use a criterion here of where the state code is greater than Illinois. Now it will do a comparison, alphabetic comparison, and it should come up with the 36 states whose state codes are greater than Illinois. So let's try running that query and see what happens. And I do indeed get 36 states, and they're the ones beyond Illinois. So now all I've got to do is to turn this into an append query. So into design view, change the type to append. We choose the table to append these to, and of course it's from an existing table in the current database, which in this case will be the state table. Click on OK. Notice how it works out that the field we specified here, say take the first column, that field, state code, in the imported state codes table is going to be appended to the state code in the state table. And similarly, the state name in the imported state codes table will be appended to state name in the state table. If these had different names, it would absolutely not be a problem. All you'd need to make sure of is that the names are correctly given here. So let's try running that append query and see what happens. You are about to append 36 rows. Say yes. Let's look at the state table. And the state table now has its full quota of 50 states. So that's an append query. That's it for this section. I'll see you in the next one.